The Parliamentary Budget Office is now warning that the country risks entering into debt distress after an IMF debt sustainability analysis found that Kenya had already breached 4 out of 6 thresholds for debt burden indicators. Now, the parliamentary team further paints a gloomy picture of how the country is spending 47.9 shillings from every 100 shillings of revenue collected to pay the debt. Once again, here's our very own Chimtai Gowin.
The report by the Parliamentary Budget Office paints a gloomy picture of the country's debt level. In its analysis, the office reveals that even as the government pushes for increased revenue collection, which has seen KRA targets moved from 1.2 trillion to 3 trillion, most of this revenue will go towards funding Kenya's debt obligations. The report shows that out of every 100 shillings collected, 47.9 shillings was gobbled up by debt, leaving only 52 shillings to cater for development. Never mind the fact that the new administration came into office on the basis of its ambitious campaign promises. The Budget Office says, though President William Ruto has directed the 22 ministries to cut its spending and raise 300 billion towards boosting the fiscal space, the action may be counterproductive as previous attempts have not been successful. The report says such measures only ends up slowing activities in government ministries and departments. The expenditure cuts on items such as hospitality, printing, training, domestic and foreign travel, among others, across the board, according to the office, required a delicate balancing act so as not to disrupt operations. Careful not to spell all doom and gloom, PBO suggests that one of the areas the new administration can tap into was the privatization of some of the 248 state corporations, which could cumulatively raise up to 30 billion shillings annually. This can be done if there is a proper privatization policy which addresses the recurrent issues faced by the agencies, hence eventually improving the financial soundness of the institutions. To further the privatization agenda, PBO proposes that capital-intensive projects that have the ability to generate revenue and can retire expensive public debt be prioritized. Further, that unlike previous arrangements where the private sector and foreigners benefit from the deal, review it to put Kenya first. Another sector identified as key in narrowing the fiscal deficit is agriculture, where the office proposes the allocation of 15 billion shillings towards expansion of the subsidy program to enable farmers access cheaper farm inputs and boost productivity. These alongside the reintroduction of extension services. With perennial losses of grain due to poor storage, the report proposes for investment in mobile grain dryers and drying center at community level to minimize loss and aid in food security. Other measures include boosting productivity among small-scale farmers, maximizing on irrigation, and ensuring increased production of staple food required for the strategic food reserve, among others. Another area of focus, and which has been targeted by the new administration, is the manufacturing industry, which President William Ruto is stepping into to narrow the gap of unemployed Kenyans. The Parliamentary Budget Office proposes that the government considers channeling the scarce funds to only viable projects, as many over the years have consumed billions and ended up being white elephants. They also say the completion of special economic zones and industrial estates will offer opportunities. Already, with the affordable housing project, President Ruto has promised to aid skilled technical workers acquire certificates that will facilitate their access to more jobs. And though the new administration insists the fuel subsidy program cost the country more harm than good, PBO notes that these had cushioned Kenyans from the high inflation rates, making the cost of living bearable. The Parliamentary Budget Office avers that to achieve fiscal consolidation, there needs to be an increase in productivity and efficiency in use of resources, as well as empowering the private sector to drive economic growth. Chimtai Gowin, Citizen TV.